Hello? I had a little bit of a problem on the road. I was wondering if I could use your phone.
I'm really sorry that we got disconnected earlier, but some things have happened. I'm in like a seriously messed up situation right now.
There's a certain kind of dread that doesn't announce itself with noise or spectacle, but instead creeps in quietly, settling into the corners of familiar places until those places no longer feel safe. And that lingering, suffocating unease is exactly the kind of tone shaping what is being called a new era of resident evil, a reimagining that seems less interested in explosive action and more focused on psychological decay, human fragility, and the slow, inevitable collapse of order. The upcoming 2026 film emerges at a fascinating crossroads for the franchise, carrying decades of legacy while attempting to strip things back to something more intimate and unsettling, guided by the creative instincts of a director known for turning everyday environments into nightmares that feel disturbingly plausible. The vision here is not just to resurrect a franchise, but to redefine its emotional and thematic core, grounding the horror in something that feels immediate and personal rather than distant and fantastical. From the very first glimpses teased in early footage, there's a noticeable shift in atmosphere as the world no longer feels like a battlefield, but more like a trap slowly closing in on its inhabitants, with silence playing as much of a role as sound. The imagery leans heavily into shadows, confined spaces, and the unsettling stillness that precedes chaos, suggesting a story that unfolds less like a traditional survival horror action piece and more like a descent into something deeply psychological. It's the kind of approach that aligns closely with the sensibilities of a filmmaker who has demonstrated a talent for misdirection and tension, where the true horror isn't always what's seen, but what's implied, what's lurking just outside the frame, or what's already inside the characters themselves. At its core, this new chapter appears to revisit the fundamental idea that made Resident Evil resonate in the first place, the collision between human ambition and uncontrollable consequence. The story hints at a world where scientific curiosity has once again crossed ethical boundaries, unleashing something that cannot be contained. Yet the focus seems less on the outbreak itself and more on the people caught in its wake. There's an emphasis on isolation, on characters who are not just fighting for survival, but grappling with confusion, paranoia, and the realization that they may not fully understand the threat they're facing. This creates a narrative tension that goes beyond physical danger, tapping into the fear of uncertainty, of not knowing who or what to trust. The choice to film for IMAX further reinforces the film's ambitions, suggesting a visual scale that contrasts with its intimate storytelling approach, creating a unique balance between grandeur and claustrophobia. The expanded aspect ratio allows environments to feel both vast and suffocating at the same time, where empty spaces become just as threatening as crowded ones. Long corridors, abandoned structures, and dimly lit interiors are likely to be framed in a way that draws the viewer deeper into the environment, making every shadow feel significant and every movement feel consequential. What makes this reinterpretation particularly intriguing is its potential to reconnect with the emotional roots of horror, focusing on characters who feel grounded and vulnerable rather than larger-than-life heroes. The narrative seems poised to explore how ordinary individuals react when confronted with extraordinary terror, examining the psychological toll of survival in a world that no longer operates by familiar rules. fear becomes not just a reaction, but a constant presence, shaping decisions, distorting perceptions, and revealing aspects of human nature that might otherwise remain hidden. Trust becomes fragile, alliances become uncertain, and even the act of moving forward carries a weight of dread. There's also a noticeable emphasis on pacing, with the teaser suggesting a deliberate rhythm that allows tension to build gradually rather than relying on constant escalation. Moments of stillness are given room to breathe, creating a sense of anticipation that makes each sudden shift more impactful. This approach aligns with a broader trend in modern horror that prioritizes atmosphere and psychological engagement over relentless action, and it positions the film as something that aims to linger in the viewer's mind rather than simply overwhelm their senses. The horror here is not just about what happens, but how it feels while it's happening, about the slow realization that something is deeply wrong and cannot be undone. The legacy of Resident Evil inevitably casts a long shadow, bringing with it expectations shaped by previous adaptations and interpretations, yet this new direction seems intent on carving out its own identity rather than replicating what came before. There's a sense that the film is less concerned with continuity and more focused on reinterpretation, using familiar elements as a foundation for something that feels fresh and unpredictable. It's a delicate balance, maintaining enough connection to the source material to feel recognizable, while pushing far enough beyond it to justify its existence as a new beginning. The tone suggested by the teaser also hints at a world that feels eerily grounded, where the horror doesn't stem from exaggerated fantasy, but from the unsettling possibility that something like this could happen, or at least feels like it could. This sense of realism enhances the impact of the story, making the stakes feel more immediate and the danger more tangible. It's not just about surviving monsters, but about navigating a reality that has fundamentally shifted, where the rules no longer apply and the future feels uncertain. This creates a narrative environment where every decision matters, where even small actions can have significant consequences. Another key aspect of this new era is the potential exploration of moral ambiguity, where characters are not clearly defined as heroes or villains, but instead exist in a spectrum shaped by circumstance and necessity. Survival often requires difficult choices, and those choices can blur the line between right and wrong, creating a more complex and nuanced narrative. This adds depth to the story, allowing it to resonate on a level that goes beyond surface-level thrills, engaging with themes of responsibility, consequence, and the cost of survival. It's the kind of storytelling that invites reflection, encouraging the audience to consider what they might do in a similar situation. The influence of the director's previous work can be felt in the way the film seems to approach tension and unpredictability, using structure and pacing to keep the audience off balance. There's an understanding that horror is most effective when it subverts expectations, when it leads the viewer in one direction only to shift suddenly into something unexpected. This creates a sense of unease that persists throughout the narrative, making it difficult to anticipate what will happen next. It's a technique that relies on careful control of information, revealing just enough to maintain engagement while holding back enough to sustain mystery. As the release date approaches, the anticipation surrounding the film continues to grow, fueled by the promise of something that both honors and reinvents a beloved franchise. The idea of a new era carries with it a sense of possibility, of unexplored territory and fresh perspectives, and this film seems poised to deliver on that promise by embracing a more focused, character-driven approach to horror. It's not just about expanding the world of Resident Evil, but about deepening it, adding layers of emotional and psychological complexity that elevate the story beyond its genre roots. The decision to emphasize a cinematic experience tailored for theaters, particularly with IMAX, also speaks to a commitment to creating something that demands to be seen on a large scale, where every detail can be fully appreciated. The interplay of light and shadow, the subtle shifts in expression, the careful composition of each frame all contribute to an experience that is as much about visual storytelling as it is about narrative progression. This attention to detail suggests a film that values craftsmanship, where every element is designed to enhance the overall impact. Ultimately, what defines this new chapter is its willingness to take risks, to move away from established patterns and explore a different kind of horror, one that is quieter, more introspective, and potentially more unsettling because of it. It's a reminder that fear doesn't always need to be loud to be effective, that sometimes the most powerful horror comes from what is suggested rather than shown, from the spaces between moments rather than the moments themselves. This approach has the potential to not only redefine Resident Evil for a new generation, but also to contribute to the broader evolution of the horror genre, demonstrating that even long-running franchises can find new life by embracing change. As the narrative unfolds, it becomes clear that this is not just a story about survival, but about transformation, about how individuals and societies respond when confronted with something that challenges their understanding of reality. It's about the fragility of control, the illusion of safety, and the inevitability of change. In this sense, the horror extends beyond the immediate threat, touching on deeper fears about the unknown and the uncontrollable forces that shape our lives. This gives the film a thematic resonance that lingers beyond its runtime, leaving a lasting impression that continues to echo long after the final frame. There's a sense that this film is aiming to do more than just entertain, that it seeks to immerse, to unsettle, and to provoke thought, creating an experience that is both engaging and meaningful. It's a bold direction, one that may not align with every expectation, but one that has the potential to redefine what Resident Evil can be. By focusing on atmosphere, character, and psychological depth, it offers a vision of horror that is both familiar and new, grounded in the legacy of the franchise while pushing it into uncharted territory. And as the world prepares to step into this reimagined nightmare, there's an undeniable curiosity about what lies ahead, about how this new era will unfold, and what it will reveal about the nature of fear, survival, and the human condition. It's a journey into darkness, not just of the external world, but of the inner self, where the true horror may not be what is encountered, but what is discovered along the way.